Hey everybody, Chris Crazy House here, and it looks like DC editorial has accomplished what Darkseid, Despero, and Lex Luthor could not, and that is the complete destruction of the DC universe. So, for those who don't know, there have been massive layoffs, as from what I understand, I think it's at least 1/3 of the editorial staff and actual working staff of DC Comics is going to be laid off. Now, it'd be real easy for them to just go ahead and blame the pandemic and stores being closed and people maybe wanting to save whatever little extra money they can during these troubled times. It'd be real easy for them to blame that, but the honest truth is they were in trouble long before COVID-19 showed up. And they've made a lot of missteps and some really disastrous ones leading up to this massive layoff that's happening right now. So I started noticing problems during a little bit before their new 52 started. And even when that started, that created a lot of buzz. Like, I remember the hype and the buzz around the new 52, around, what was it, year 2010, 2011. And I remember I bought a lot of those first issues just trying to get into it. Like, and they were trying to gain that new audience, but really it was more old heads like myself that were really buying into it. So I bought a lot of those first issues, and even went as far to buy a lot of the second issues. And there's a lot of, once I went through them all, I could see that there were maybe only 6 or 7 titles that were even worth a damn out of the whole new 52. And that's not to disparage a lot of the artists behind it, because there's a lot of really good stuff there. There's some good artwork and some good things they could have done, but I just was not an overall fan of what they did with the new 52. And then they even tried to adjust that later on with the line that came after that. But by then it seemed like the damage was done. And I noticed even then editorial was doing a lot of things like trying to make more, I guess, diverse choices. And like one of the big ones I remember is they decided to put Cyborg in the original roster of the Justice League, just completely retcon the formation of the Justice League and take out Martian Manhunter and put Cyborg in there instead, which is funny because anyone who knows the history of Justice League, Martian Manhunter was a big factor in the formation of the original Justice League when Justice League #1 came out. But they decided to move him to Justice League America, and then like they had him on a team of like just a bunch of, they had him, Hawkman, and a bunch of racially diverse analogs to these other characters. Like they had then they have like the Arab or the Middle Eastern Green Lantern at the time, and they had a couple other ones on there too. I can't even remember, but that just shows you how special they were. Artwork was amazing, but wasn't just wasn't story wise good. And I really did not like what they did to the Authority. The Authority was already a very diverse team with excellent dynamics between them, but they messed that up too. Same thing with trying to make the Justice League. I guess they're trying to make the Justice League more hip, as well as characters like Shazam more hip. They made Billy Batson out to be like a little asshole, and they made like the way that Justice League was written by Jeff Johns at that time. I remember just like how juvenile they made characters like Green Lantern, and I was just like, is this what I'm supposed to be reading? Is it supposed to be funny? Like, even Jim Lee's artwork, it was good, but it wasn't like his best stuff. It wasn't what I was expecting. And while DC has had some good stories after that, some fun stuff, that I did like. Like I really liked the Dark Side War. I liked the direction that they kind of went with Wonder Woman, starting off with what's his name, Brian Arzello doing the stories for it. I kind of like the direction they went in with her. I even like some of the characters that I didn't expect to like. Like I told you guys before, I like the new 52 version of Batwoman. I like that book. I was not looking forward to, nor did I like what they were doing with Batman, but that was more of a personal thing. Cause I'm kind of, as a fan, I'm just kind of worn out on Batman altogether. Yeah, everyone likes him. He's easily accessible, but that does not mean he needs to be in every comic book iteration ever. You know, it's like the DC has such a wide, vast array in their universe. They just don't have to keep putting Batman in every damn thing. And you know, it was weird because, like I said before the New 52, their Green Lantern books were amazing, but then they just kind of fell off after that. Like Jeff Johns had kind of retconned a lot of the Silver Age stuff for Green Lantern with the stories like Blackest Night and what was that, the Sinestro War and stuff like that. Like that was all great stuff. And stuff like Flashpoint and everything, and then that just kind of went by the wayside. I guess it technically was still there, but that kind of went by the wayside when they came out with the New 52. So like that right there to me was the start of this trend where things were going downhill. And it never fully recovered from that publicity stunt of New 52 and everything. Even with them, like I said, they tried to fix it and it still has not come back. And recently, the last couple of years, with just letting all of these Hollywood douchebags come in there and do whatever little fanfic that they want to. Like everyone remembers that Gotham High trash and a lot of the trash that Tom King has written as far as stuff he's written about Batman and other characters. And even now, with this whole Wonder Woman cover, where they just got some random person doing what I like to call it, the everyone gets a trophy style of artwork, and putting that on one of their variant covers where they're trying to promote interest in their movie. They just made a lot of mistakes there and dropped the ball in so many cases that I don't think there is a point where they can actually recover, because they were more concerned about satisfying everyone's politics. There's a lot of fans will say, a lot of old school fans from my age will say that there's a problem with putting politics in the comics. That's not the problem. You can have politics, but that should not be your main focus in trying to fit everyone's political outlook into a comic book or trying to pander to people. Like that's the thing about a lot of these comic books when they do have these so-called political stories or agendas. Really, if you actually read them, they're talking down to the people that they're trying to pander to. And a lot of the content comes out as very condescending and really disrespectful when you actually think about it. And that's why a lot of people don't really want to have anything to do with comics nowadays. And no matter what you might say about them, this quote-unquote phantom conglomerate of Comicsgate, a lot of their comics are doing better than what the mainstream has put out there. So, I know, and I really don't get into the whole Comicsgate thing because, everyone, you have one side saying that, oh, it's all a bunch of racists or whatever, and that's not true. That's not the 100% truth, because obviously there's a bunch of minorities there who are doing their own books. It's more about people wanting to see the types of comic books they grew up with. Now, I don't 100% agree with that, only because I would say that while, yes, that's where I lean to more towards, I don't see anything wrong with letting other people have their own perspective of what comics should be. I think there's more than enough room for everyone to have something there, and the way DC can make decisions about what they should let go forward is just look at what sells and what doesn't. I mean, that's the way it used to be done. If your book wasn't selling, then they kind of pulled it. But if you make something that is popular and the majority of your hardcore audience likes it, then why not keep it there? Don't just change it just to be changing it to fit into some sort of political agenda to satisfy really a very minute group of people who most of them don't even buy comics anyway. They just like to complain online about stuff and like to whine, and most of them are just miserable people to begin with. And you start catering to them instead of catering to the people who actually spend money, then that could be you cause problems that way. Now you're not making enough revenue to even keep the high-minded, high pay wanting staff that you do have. And now you gotta let some people go. And like I said, DC has no one to blame really but themselves in this matter. And I've seen some very ignorant solutions where even someone was saying, "Oh, we need to artists and writers need to unionize in comics." I'm like, that boat has passed. It's way too late for that. Too little and way too late. Like my brother Sean James said, the time to unionize was back in the 90s when artists and writers had that power to make demands like that. You can't do that now. Both Marvel and DC have circumvented that by trying to reestablish that it's more about their characters and not about the artists doing those characters. You know, those days are gone. That was the age of that first wave of image artists where the artists were the ones making the money by their style and the fan base coming in there and the speculative market being so into comics. That doesn't exist anymore. Okay, the big two, Marvel and DC, made sure that they torpedoed that. Okay, so you can't at this point you really can't unionize, and I see really comics it's just going to become more of a novelty thing. It's not going to be a thing where you have these big companies running things like you used to. It can't exist in that way anymore. Actually, like I said before, not to praise or to condemn, but the Comics Gate model is probably going to be the way of the future, where you have people who might be able to generate a small enough fan base, and actually they'll do better financially because they'll be getting all the profits themselves. They'll have their small fan base donate to the production of a book, and then they'll put the book out there for their fans, and the people will buy it, and they'll be able to make more money that way. That's kind of like how I do things, where I'm making more money than I will probably ever make working for Marvel or DC because I self-publish. So, you know, for me, it's not that big of a deal, and it's not a lot of overhead costs like there used to be. It's just the hard part is just getting your book out there to a wide enough audience to see if there are people who will buy it. But once you get over that hurdle, you're better off than any artist would be trying to get a job at DC and trying to fit into this house style or maybe draw characters that you don't really have any passion for. But, you know, even that kind of is a problem because now you have these people who just want to come in, who have an agenda, or people who just want to use comic books as a stepping stone so that they can get to Hollywood, or you have people in Hollywood coming down to comics trying to get some more high profile work, and it's just a mess. There's not a real general love for the medium anymore. There's not a love for actual comic books. There's not that hardcore passion that those artists that we grew up with and respected who actually loved that medium and wanted to do it. That really doesn't exist as much anymore. A lot of those people have been pushed out for these ideologues and bureaucracy that exist in comics now, and that's why the industry is failing the way it is. You guys let me know how you feel about it in the comments section. Anyway, Chris Crazy House signing out. Peace.